Praise be Jesus Christ and Mary Immaculate. Welcome to this 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time. We're going to read from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, verses 46 to 52. Seeing beyond ideology. In today's Gospel from Mark, we hear the story of Bartimaeus, a blind man sitting by the roadside near Jericho. And as Jesus passes by, something so subtle as Jesus walking by, Jesus notices us, Jesus knows us, and Jesus stops. He's never too busy to stop. Bartimaeus cried out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And despite being rebuked by the crowd, he persisted, and Jesus stopped. And that is amazing. God stops for us. God stops for our needs. God is moved to stop for our needs. And Jesus stopped, asking Bartimaeus, "What do you want me to do for you?" Bartimaeus replied, "Master, let me see again." And Jesus, recognizing his faith, restored his sight, saying, "Go, your faith has saved you." This healing is not just about Bartimaeus' physical blindness. The evangelist Mark places this story immediately after what we heard last week of the third prediction of Jesus of his passion, where James and John, two of the 12, misunderstood his message by asking for places of honor in his kingdom. They, James and John, were spiritually blind, and so are many of the disciples of Jesus today, because they seek power, prestige, instead of understanding Jesus' mission of love, humility, and sacrifice. Bartimaeus represents the disciples, especially James and John, and their need for spiritual sight. When Bartimaeus calls out Jesus, Son of David, he is initially blinded by the expectation of the Messiah, by the expectation of a political Messiah, someone who would restore Israel's power by force, just like King David. And Jesus, while he is from the lineage of David, and while he absolutely claims that David is part of his family and his lineage, Jesus is fundamentally very different from King David. While David was a powerful and loved king who led through military conquest, he also committed grave sins like murder and adultery. In contrast, Jesus is sinless and full of mercy, and he came to establish God's kingdom through love, humility, and sacrifice, and never through force. Faith is always offered, never forced upon people. But after his encounter with Jesus, Bartimaeus sees more clearly. He no longer sees Jesus as a political savior, but as Rabboni, meaning my Lord, acknowledging the true mission of Jesus to bring salvation through love and service, not through power. How can we apply that to our daily life? This passage invites us to reflect on the forms of blindness of our own lives. Like Bartimaeus and the disciples, we may sometimes be blinded by ambitions for power, recognition, or status. Sometimes we may be blinded by our own zeal to promote our own way of thinking, or our own image of church, or our own experience of church. In our workplaces, communities, or even within our families, we might focus on what we can gain or how can we be elevated or noticed for our goodness. But Jesus calls us to throw off our cloak of self-interest, to throw off the cloak of wanting to look good, to throw off the cloak of self-righteousness, and to see the world through the eyes of love and humility. Imagine in a church community where you are deeply involved in organizing an event, right? Or leading a ministry. In the desire to be recognized as a true leader or to have things done your way, you might accidentally overlook the contributions or the needs of other parishioners that are also serving. Perhaps a new volunteer does need more guidance, more help, more training. But because you're so focused on achieving success for the event that you're leading, that volunteer is sometimes overlooked or unsupported. Like Bartimaeus, we need to open our eyes to see the real leadership in the church community comes from humility and serving others, not from seeking personal recognition. True service follows Jesus' example of putting others first. I'll leave you with this question. What blindnesses are you experiencing in your life? What is one thing you need to let go of to see the call of Jesus to service and love more clearly? God bless you.